Hello, hi. Very good afternoon to everyone. How are you all? In activity one, if the interest for the time period for the second sale till December was not added of accrued income. The interest for the time period from the second sale till December of accrued income. Division accrued income scheme. We take interest up to the sale. We take interest deemed up to the sale. Interest is taken as deemed interest. Interest after the second sale is not included in the income of the person who has done the sale. Only the interest up to the sale. Only the interest up to the sale is deemed as accrued income. Okay, let's check out in the activity one itself. We were discussing property income in our last class. So we left with one or two topic of property income. Then we will start a new topic today. Okay, activity 11. Can you tell me the page number? Okay, we are talking about this one. On 1st August 2020, Carolyn bought some 4% gilt from Jemmy. They have nominal value of 5,000 and pay interest on 30th and 31st December. She paid 50,000 including interest on 1st August and sold them 54 including interest on 31st March 2020. How much interest is accessible on Carolyn tax year 2021 in relation to this gilt? So basically, Carolyn, they have nominal value 50,000 and pay interest on 30 June and 31 December. She paid 52,000 on 1st August and sold them for 54,500 on 31st March. So we have to take interest up to 31st March. Is they have done anything different here? Okay, we discussed this question in last class. Interest actually received 1,000 less interest accrued to Jemmy 167, and you are confused about interest from August to December is confusing me. Add interest accrued up to sale Jan to March. Where is the confusion? Basically, I'm having the ownership for the 8 months. What is accrued income scheme basically? I think it's a problem of not understanding the concept, not the question. Accrued income scheme is basically to it's a scheme introduced to charge the tax to the owner, to the real owner. So if you are the owner of your investment in the tax year, you should be charged to your you should be chargeable to the interest, not the person you sold. Basically, if someone hold the investment for the entire year and at the just before the due date of interest he sold to someone else to avoid the interest tax liability. So this accrued income scheme is basically to curb that tax planning. So here he sold on March. So interest up to March will be accrued interest, and the interest actually received is on 31st 12/20. So at December he must have received the interest. Carolyn must have received the interest, and less interest accrued to Jemmy. Old interest should be minus because it is accrued to Jemmy. It will be chargeable in the taxation of Jemmy. That's why we have to reduce from the Carolyn income. That's why they have reduced this 167. Are you sure, Dipesh? Okay. So we were discussing property income. I hope you have done your revision, everyone. Now, quite an interesting topic we have discussed. What is the basis for assessment? What are the allowable deduction? We only left with, we have discussed rent a room relief also, lease premium also. We left with property business losses and FHL. How to deal with FHL and property business losses. So let's start with FHL first, then we will go to property business losses. Now understand this first. What is furnished holiday letting? See, I told you that this topic, property income, talks about rental income. But furnished holiday letting is a different type of property. When we talk about FHL, what type of property we are talking about? Are we talking about a residential property? Are we talking about a commercial property? First thing is, we are talking about commercial property. A furnished holiday letting, you can think of as a property where commercial activity is going on, and the commercial activity is letting to give on rent. Means I have compared this FHL with OYO rooms. Basically, you don't let for 1 year, 2 year. You let for very short period of time. 1 week, 2 weeks. The period of letting is very short, so you can understand that there is a frequent change of tenants. There is a higher frequency or a change of tenant in FHL. So the way FHL is operating, the furnished holiday letting is operating, is similar to any trading business. The furnished holiday letting operate in a similar manner. If you talk about a trading business is going on, this activity of FHL is quite considered as a trading activity. Normally, renting a property to someone is cannot be considered as trading activity. For example, if you have two houses, one is your main residence where you are residing, and another house you've given on rent to someone. Do you call it as a trading activity? No, because the tenants are tenants primarily does not change frequently, whereas in furnished holiday letting, tenants are frequently changing. They are for very short period. So these activities are very similar or look like trading activities. Now let's read from the provision, what provision definition, and there are some certain special benefit for FHL because they are doing a trading activity, so they will get more benefit than a normal property. Let's see how all this is dealt with. Accommodation count is a furnished holiday letting is all of the following apply. If these are the condition fulfilled, if these 4 conditions are fulfilled, only then you will consider a property as FHL. It is available for commercial letting to the public for no less than 21 days in each tax year. It actually let for at least 105 days in the each tax year. If taxpayer owns more than one FHL, this condition can be satisfied based on the average number of days each property is let. Tenants do not stay for a period of more than 31 days. However, tenants do not stay for a period of more than 31 days. However, the property can be let to that same tenant for the period longer than this is provided. These long lets do not take up more than 155 days per tax year. It is located in European Economic Area. Then we have an exam focus point. An FHL must be situated in the UK or in another state within European Economic Area. However, only FHL situated within UK are within the taxation syllabus, obviously. So we are focused on the UK properties, UK FHL, not Indian FHLs. It is possible to make an election so that a rental property continues to qualify as a FHL for up to 2 years after the 105-day test ceases to be met. The election is not examinable in the taxation. So basically, this option, it is possible to make an election so that a rental property continues to qualify as an FHL for up to 2 years after the 05 test ceases to be met. Even if the test ceases to be met, there is a possibility you can still continue to show for the 2 years the property or take the benefit of FHL. See, why you want to qualify your property as FHL? Understand this point. There are certain benefits to being property recognized as FHL. And what are the benefits of property recognized as FHL? FHL accommodation income is taxable as property income, but it is treated as business. And once it is treated as business, you will get all the expenses, the deduction of expenses from your income. You will get more deduction of expenses from income, which you will get instead if it is treated as normal property. Landlord needs to keep detail of income an expense separate to other property. This is so that profit and losses can be identified for the special rule which apply to FHL. The losses can only be offset against future profit from FHL. This is again a very important understanding. Lender need to keep details of income and expense separate to other properties. This is so that profit and losses identify special rule which apply to FHL. Means if you have a loss from an FHL property, you cannot write it out with normal property. You have to have another FHL property to write it off or to adjust it off. The advantage of having FHL are that finance costs are not, if they are fully deductible. So you know that in FHL, there is no restriction of finance cost. You can actually deduct your finance cost and you don't even have to take the tax credit. Capital expenditure, even capital expenditure are allowed. You know, generally in property income, do we allow capital expenditure? No, no. Income is treated as earned income and so qualifies the part of relevant earning for pension contribution. This point need to be deferred for now. When I will teach you pension income, I will explain at that time. Capital gain, there are certain another relief. So understand this in summary. If you are FHL, you will get a capital expenditure on furniture. You will get interest, fully deduction of interest. The two special benefit you don't get in normal property. Plus your income is treated as for pension scheme, and you've also got another relief like capital gain, business asset and disposal. Check it out, everyone. Give it a read. So, do you all understand FHL, furnished holiday letting? Let me know. So understand this, everyone, that it mostly tested in 2 markers. You should aware of these conditions. The main important thing for all of you is these conditions. These conditions are very important. Understand them very carefully. You should have an European economic area. European economic area means the property should be situated in UK or European economic area, if you call it. The letting must be, means you available to let. Available to let is for 210 days. So the available to let period is 210 days. So minimum in a year for the property should be available to let for 210 days. Means it should not be closed due to any reason. It should be available to let for at least 210 days, and the property should actually be let for 105 days in a tax year. And no person, no one occupier should stay for more than 31 days. That's why I told you. However, if they have given a little bit of relaxation, if someone occupies even for more than the long period, maximum cannot exceed 155 days per tax year. Correct? Now let's look out for property losses. Again, a very simple provision. So now question arises, when does we get a loss in property business? So you get a loss in property business when your rental income is less than rental expenses. So if your expenses, your total expenses exceed your rental income, you will generate a loss. Now what you do with your loss? See, in income tax, loss can be carried forward and it can be adjusted with future profit. So losses can give you tax saving. So generally there is no difference between the treatment of property business loss calculated under the cash basis or one calculated on the accrual basis. If the result is a profit taxable in the current tax year, if result in a loss, carry forward deduct from the first available property profit in the future. But here you have to note down one point, my friend. And this it's a very simple. You can carry forward your property business loss. You can adjust it off with any property. But just a reminder, if it is a loss from an FHL property, if we have a loss from FHL property, furnished holiday letting, the loss from FHL property can only be set off from future profit from FHL property, not from any other normal property. So normal property losses can be set off from normal property, and FHL losses can be set off only from FHL property. solve this. You can check out this activity to yourself. Very simple. It's testing your rent relief and other provisions. So that's all for property income, friends. We have done the discussion of each and every provision of property income. Let's start a new topic. Property income is quite a short topic and a very easy topic. So do give a revision. Okay. So today we're gonna start a new topic, badges of trade. Badges of trade are also called as income from self-employment. Basically, we are going to start trading income. We are going to start our discussion from for PGBP income from self-employment. We are going to discuss our a new topic, computing trading income. Give me a second. So friends, when we talk about the topic, let's start this topic. Income from self-employed. See, in our basic class, we discussed that in taxation, two things are vital. The most important things are two things in income taxes. Two things are vital. You have to think out about two things in income tax. First is source, and second is tax rates. So there can be various sources of income. For example, you can have income from employment, which is called as employment income. You can have income from property, which is known as property income. You can also have income from saving, interest income, also known called as interest income or saving income. You can have dividend income from your investments. These are different sources an individual can have for their income. See, either you can have an employment, either you can have a property, either you have some FDs in your bank from which you are generating some saving income, either you have a dividend income, or you can have some pension income. You can have a pension from some pension scheme. There can be some capital gain, or there can be some trading income. Now understand these last two again. When I talk about capital gain, what does capital gain? When capital gain arises, when does capital gain arises? A person, capital gain will arise when you do a transfer of any property, any asset, which is not your business, which you are not in dealing with, which you are not dealing regularly, and you sell it on a profit or a loss. Then you can have a capital gain or a capital loss. So capital gain and capital gain or loss will arise on transactions which are of not revenue nature. Means these are the transaction you don't do on daily basis. For example, you have a car, or you have a laptop, or you have a mobile phone. If you decided that I am going to sell my mobile phone, I'm going to sell my laptop, I'm going to sell my car. See, selling car, buying car is not your business. Now, if you sell your car and if you got any gain or loss on that car, it will be treated as capital gain or capital loss. That sale on that laptop or mobile is a capital gain or capital loss. But if someone is dealing in that car, if someone has a business to sell car and buy car or deal in laptop and a phone, then it will be treated as trading income, everyone. Now this topic is very important. This trading income topic is very important, which I'm going to discuss. Till now we have done the discussion of this property income. We have yet to discuss employment, saving, dividend, pension, capital gain. And now we are starting trading income. Trading income means you are doing some business activity, earning from a business, income from a business profession, or you can call it as income from self-employment, also called as income from self-employment. Means you are not employed to anyone, you are self-employed. You are self-employed and you are earning from self-employment. So these are the 7 sources you should be very expert of. So we discussed various provision. We discussed various provision of property income, that how to calculate property income, what is a performer, what is how to deal with rent, room relief, lease premiums, and also discuss FHL, etc. All these things. Similarly, we have various rules to determine trading income. Okay, so I hope background is clear. Now let's start this topic, trading income. Do we have any doubts up till now? Anyone? Tell me first. Do we have any doubts? Do we want to discuss anything? Sakshi, Kirti, no. Anything, my friend, before starting this topic, you want to know any background, anything, anything is confusing you, Divij, anyone? Don't carry any baggage in relation to concept. Okay. So I think we can start our discussion of this topic, trading income. Now, how does this topic start? What this topic? The first thing this topic is start with. It talks about you are doing an activity. Okay, you are doing an activity. This topic talks about whether this activity is trading or not. How to decide the activity you are doing is trading or not. How to decide the activity you are doing is trading or not, my friend. Trading or not. To decide, we need some criteria to decide this, whether the activity we are doing is, my friend, is trading or not. Need some criteria for this. Why, sir? Why we need criteria? See, there can only be 2 answers, and it's very important. Why? If your answer, my friend, is yes, or your answer can be no, the activity I am doing, because let's say I have sold a car. If it is trading, it will fall under the head of income from self-employment. The taxation will fall under this head. It will be treated as trading income. The taxation will be as per the trading income head. However, if your answer is different, if you say this activity, then this topic is not relevant. So I want you to understand when to apply this topic first. This topic is not relevant if you are doing if you're not doing trading activity. This topic is not relevant if you are not doing any trading activity. Then it will fall under the capital gain heading. That's why before starting this topic, I reminded you about the sources. So if your activity is not trading, it will fall automatically under the capital gain heading. So yes, if yes, it is a trading income. Else it can be a capital gain, or maybe exempt from tax, whatever. But surely it will not be a trading income. Now you may ask, sir, how to decide? How to decide? Let me talk about. Let me give you a case. Let me talk about a case which take place in the past. There was one person who who was not doing any business, who was not engaged in any business. You all have to decide who was not engaged in any business, but suddenly during the year he bought millions of toilet roll. Yes, I'm talking. He bought. There was a case in the past. That person bought million of toilet rolls, and it's a one-time activity. He bought a million of toilet rolls and sold them. Now, question faced by the income tax department. Question came to the court, to the judge, in front of the jury, that whether this activity of buying million rolls one time, never done this activity any time before, bought a million roll for one time and then sold it. Does it constitute a trading activity or not? So what do you think, all of you? What do you think? What is your answer to it? Do you think it's a trading activity or not? Okay, so Aryan is saying, I think yes, that if intends to do this again in future, the which no. Understand this. See, there is a confusion. We are getting multiple answers. Some of you may be thinking yes, some of you may be thinking no. Either you think this activity is a trading or not. So to remove this problem, to answer all these things, income tax authority has given us some concept, some factor to look out. If we get some of these factor in a transaction, if activity constitute these factors, and here comes our first topic, badges of trade. So to decide whether an activity is a trading activity or not, you need to understanding of badges of trade. Badges of trade means factor of trade, means these are the sign of trade. These are all the picture of trade. All these factors will show whether there is actually a trade or not. And in the given case which I discussed, it is a trading activity. Why, sir, it is a trading activity? It is not because it will that person do again in future, not because we know whether he will do it again in future. We don't know. And they were just saying it's not an activity because it is not a business. No, it's a trading activity because of subject matter. If you look at the subject matter, buying million of toilet roll is not a normal transaction. For example, if you buy a car, it obviously you bought. What is your intention behind buying the car? Obviously, it's for personal use. But when you're buying a million toilet roll, what is your objective? Do you want to use the million toilet roll for personal use? No. Obviously, the toilet rolls are bought with a purpose to resell, to earn profit. And when your intention, the subject matter is to earn the profit, obviously it's a trading activity. Whenever you are doing something from the perspective, see, what is business? Business is doing something with an objective to earn profit. If you bought a car and laptop for a personal use, and later on you're going to sell it, the objective was never to, at the time of buying, your objective was never to earn the profit from the sale. But buying a million of toilet roll, millions of toilet roll, is obviously shows that the objective was to resell and unprofit. That's why that activity was considered as trading activity. Got it, everyone? So first thing we have to look out in this topic is badges of. So in badges of trade, first thing is subject matter. So you can we have to read out when the person is trading or not may sometimes be decided by examining subject matter of transaction. So what do you mean by subject matter of transaction? Subject matter, intention of the transaction, frequency of transaction which may in isolation be of capital nature will be interpreted as trading transaction where the frequency indicates the carrying on a trade. So second badge is frequency. Sometimes a transaction which is if you're doing a transaction where number of transactions are quite high, then it will also called as it can also maybe treated as trading transaction. Length of ownership, although this is not always the case, the court may infer adventures in the nature of trade where item purchased are sold soon afterward. So if you hold something for a longer period, it may be considered of capital nature. But if you are holding for very short period, then it should be considered as trading. Profit motive, profit. If there is a profit motive, then it should be considered as trading. Then it says when the work is done to make property more marketable, step or taken to find purchaser, court will be more ready to ascribe the trading motive. Obviously, so when you are doing to make product reachable, so you are basically basically what you are doing, basically you are focusing on to making the product more sellable. If acquired unintentionally and then sold, it is unlikely trading has taken place. Obviously, if you got something from inheritance, your first generation, your father has given you something, obviously you have not taken for a resale purpose, so it can be considered as capital transaction. So these are the badges of trade. One thing in short, in crux, remember one thing, there are various factors, but main thing is intention to earn profit. If your intention is to earn profit from the transaction, then I will say that the transaction is a trading activity. Correct? Now let's move on. Okay. Let me put one more scenario for you. Let's say I went to a museum. I went to a museum and bought a painting, a very costly painting. I bought a very costly painting, and after let's say a few months or a year, I sold that painting. Later on, I sold that painting. Tell me, everyone, what do you think? Is this activity is a trading activity or not? And if yes, why? Write me down. Not a trading activity because he bought for personal use and after some time sold it, so it will be considered under capital gain. Very good, Sakshi. Quite a good reasoning. Understand this. This work of art I bought is for my pleasure. This work of art is for my personal consumption. It's for my personal luxury. This I bought with an intention for my personal satisfaction, pleasure, luxury, consumption, whatever you want to call it. Intention was never to earn profit from. I got impressed with the art. I got attached with the art. I want that art in my home. After sometimes, maybe due to any reason, I'm now want to sell it. So it's a capital transaction. Correct. Now, okay, sir. Once we have decided what activity trading, what activity. Now we can start this topic. So what is the next question we should face on with? The next thing we should learn about is performer. How to calculate profit, taxable profit. So the next important, my friend, the next important thing is performer. Now, what is the problem here? You know, there is a one thing is accounting profit. Understand some things very clearly, my friend. There is one thing called as accounting profit. When you do business, you prepare a P&L. When you do business, you prepare your P&L and you will generate an accounting profit. But do I need accounting profit? No. What I need is tax adjusted trading profit. Now, I want all of you to understand this very carefully. This is fundamental you need to understand very carefully. I'm not interested in accounting profit. I'm interested in tax adjusted profit, tax adjusted trading profit. See, all the income will be on the credit side, all the expenses will be debit side. On the net, I have to pay tax. But tax will not be paid on accounting profit. Tax will be paid on tax adjusted trading profit. Now, what is the difference? What is the difference? So there are some things in accounts you should understand. First thing is allowed. You should be aware of some word. Disallowed, allowed, disallowed, or exempt, or taxable, somewhere else. Or one more is allowed, disallowed, exempt, taxable somewhere else, or taxable. Do you understand the meaning of all this? See, first thing is there are certain differences in accounting profit and tax adjusted trading. Income tax authority is saying that I do not trust you. I don't trust you. Whatever the profit you are determining, how can I trust you? For example, Aryan determine a profit. Aryan determine a profit. And let's say I'm the tax authority and he has paid tax on that profit. Should I trust that the profit calculated by Aryan will be accurate? No. That's why the profit which I believe in is the profit determined by my rules. My department, my rules. So the profit which is determined by my rules is of my interest. So some things are, first thing is, some expenses I will allow, some expenses I will not allow. Means there are some expenses. What does allowed means? Allowed means there are some expenses which are allowed by the income tax department. So what IAS and IFRS saying is no matter relevant for me. Accounting profit is determined as per international IFRS and IAS, but it is no more relevant for me. What is relevant for me? What is tax department is saying? What is income tax law is saying? If income tax say, if there is certain expense, first check out the income tax book. Is this expense allowed? Then only then it will go to the P&L only then it will be considered. If it is allowed, then only if it is disallowed, it will not be considered as expense, even if it is a genuine expense. Even if accounting IFRS are saying they are expense, if income tax has said that the expense is disallowed, it will be disallowed. If it is allowed, it will be considered as expense. What does mean exempt? Exempt means it is not taxable, so it will be not chargeable to me. It may be considered in accounting books for calculating accounting profit, but if that income is exempt from the tax, it will be not considered in a taxation P&L. Sometimes taxable somewhere else. Income is not exempt. Income is taxable, but it is not taxable under this head. See, you understand that in accounts, P&L include every type of income, whether it is dividend income, whether it is income, interest income, whether it is capital gain income. But you know, capital gain income is not taxable in trading income. It is taxable somewhere else. Property income is not taxable here. It is taxable under another head. That's why any income which is not taxable under the trading income head will not be included. And lastly, income which are taxable, only that income will be included. Let's check out the pro forma now. So this is the pro forma, everyone. First, take out the net profit in accounts. You have to first take out your net profit as per calculated as per accounting books, as per IS and IFRS. Add back expenditure not deductible for tax. Expenditure not deductible for tax. What does it mean? Disallowed expenditure. Any expenditure which are disallowed, you should add back to increase the profit. So you should add back. Any non-trading expenditure. So expenditure which is of not trading nature. For example, there is some personal expenses. They should also be disallowed, or expenditure which are not allowed here, allowed somewhere else, should also be disallowed here. So they are needed to be added back. What you need to deduct? It says income assessable under other category. Yes, income, if it is an income which is assessable under any other head, it should be deducted from here because it is not the income from trading. Again, non-taxable income. Non-taxable income are exempt income. These income should be deducted because they are not liable to tax. Deductible expenditure not shown in accounts. Note that if there are certain expenditure which are allowed by income tax, but they are omitted from accounts book. For example, there was certain omission in the accounting book. That expenditure need to be deducted now. So deduct the expenditure not shown in accounts. You will get your adjusted profit less capital allowance on plant and machinery. You will get your adjusted trading income. And this is the one I'm focused on. This you will calculate the tax. Now, all of you must be confused about, sir, what is this capital allowance on plant and machinery? See, capital allowance means depreciation. Simply, capital allowance means depreciation. Now, regarding depreciation, let me give you a very important point. We have an entire topic on capital allowance. The depreciation calculated in accounts is as per IS 16. You calculate using SLM method, WDV method, whatever the method you are following. There are many methods for calculating depreciation. But the depreciation rules of accounting will not apply here. So if we have depreciation in our P&L as per accounting, we need to add back that depreciation. The depreciation should be calculated as per income tax rule. So in income tax, depreciation is called as investment allowance or capital allowance. And if it is calculated as per income tax rule, then only it is eligible to be deducted. So for this topic, don't worry how to calculate depreciation as per income tax rule. It will be our next topic we will do later on. But for the time being, understand depreciation as per accounts book should be add back, and depreciation as per income tax book should be minus, in short. Check out, everyone. Very important. Is it clear to everyone? Is this pro forma is clear to everyone? Let me know. I want answers from everyone. Yes, no. Respond fast. Very good, Aryan. Please understand this. Whatever the question in your mind, ask me. Kyuki, without this understanding this pro forma, whatever I'm going to teach you will not understand. You should understand why we are adding, why we are deducting, what we are doing. If you don't take it very lightly, these fundamentals, so you will not understand the provisions. I can only elaborate on provisions when you understand this performer. So Aryan is asking, sir, why we are deducting income assessable in another category? Why we are deducting income assessable in other category? Aryan, if there is a property income in rent or a rental income in our accounting P&L, is it a trading income, Aryan? A rental income is a trading income. If we have an interest income, is it a trading income? Tell me, my friend. No. So don't we need to remove that income to calculate trading income? Don't we need to remove that income to calculate trading income, my friend? Got it? Now, it's talking about accounting policies. We discussed all this point already. Expenditure not deductible for tax. Now the third point, capital expenditure. Let's start from here. Now, what I'm going to teach you, what is the third aspect I'm teaching after performer? Understand this. What is the third thing we are learning after performer? Once we have done the performer, now I want to tell you the rules to decide what are allowed, what are disallowed, what are exempt, what are taxable somewhere, and what are taxable under this head. Don't you want to know the rules now? So this topic is in 3 phases and it is finished. The 3-phase topic and it is finished. The first thing you need to aware of in this topic to become a topic is badges with tested generation marker. The second should be of performer. What I have to do. What I have to do. And the last thing in this topic, which is of our concern, the last thing which is of our concern, how to do. Means what is the provisions? Now we are starting the provisions. See, in accounts, you have studied so many provisions. For revenue, you have IFRS 15. For property, plant, equipment, you have IAS 16. For different income and expenditure, you have accounting rules to dealt with now. Similarly, income tax department has given provisions to given us criteria to decide which expenditure should be allowed, which expenditure should be exempt, which is disallowed, which is taxable somewhere else, which is taxable under this head. All these criteria are given, my friend. So let's start with our first expenditure, capital expenditure. Before reading from the book, there are 2 types of expenditure. One is capital, one is revenue. What do you think? Capital expenditure should be allowed or disallowed? Obviously, it should be disallowed. A capital expenditure should be disallowed. Only revenue expenditure should be allowed. So capital expenditure is not deductible. This means that depreciation is not deductible, as are legal and professional fee in relation to capital acquisition and disposal. Profit and losses on sale of non-current may be deducted or added back respectively. Chargeable gain, allowable losses may be dealt with capital gain. The most continuous item of expenditure will often repair, revenue expenditure, and investment improvement. We have already done the discussion of this, that capital expenditures are taxed in capital gain topic, not here. But there is the topic is saying that we have 3 exceptions to the capital rule. Fees incurred, renewal of short lease, incidental cost of obtaining loan finance, cost of registering patents and trademark. We will discuss about these 3 exemptions. Defer for now. Payment contrary to public policy and illegal payments. Note down this point. Fines and penalties. Fine and penalties should be allowed or not. Logically, fine and penalty should not be allowed. Because if you are allowing fine and penalties, it means you are supporting fine and penalties. So these expenses are not allowed by income tax. It means if you have paid any fine and penalty, we will not allow them as an expense. Whether accounting does not bifurcate in this manner. Do you understand this now? Accounting will take this fine and penalties as a loss and as an expense. Because in accounts, the objective is to calculate the net profit, the ultimate profit we got. But in taxation, the objective is not to get the profit, is to get the taxable profit, the profit we should charge tax on. So we will only take allowed expenses, and fine and penalties are disallowed. So if in exam you have fine and penalties, you need to add back, because they are deducted to arrive net profit as per accounts. You have to add back to remove the impact. However, see, there are some exception to this rule. There are some exception to this rule. What is the exception? If you have incurred fine and penalty for parking, then it is allowed. However, HMRC usually allow employee parking fine incurred in parking their employee car while on their employer's business. Fine relating to trader, however, are never allowed. A payment is not deductible if making it constitute an offense by the payer. This cover protection money paid to terrorists, also bribes, statute also prevent any deduction for payment in respect of blackmail extortion. So my only exception is one where employee paying parking fine. So this can be tested. Parking fines by whom? Not by employer. Employee parking fine incurred in parking their employer's car while on their employer's business. So don't you think it's a fine, parking fine, which should be allowed because the employee incurred while performing its duty for the employer? Maybe he was in hurry, or maybe it was a genuine reason he was not able to park the do the parking properly. That's why the parking fine is incurred. Hence, there is a relaxation for parking fines. So HMRC has given only relaxation for parking fines. All other fines, penalties, bribes, distortion, terrorist activities, blackmail activities, you have paid for anything, it is not allowed. Correct. Now let's move on to the general provisions and bad debt. It talking about provision and bad debts. Only impairment losses where liability was incurred wholly and exclusively for the purpose of trade are deductible for tax. For example, loan to employee written off are not deductible. General provisions, that is those calculated as a percentage of total trade receivable without reference to specific receivable, will now rarely be seen. General provision, that is those calculated as a percentage of total trade receivable without reference to specific provision, will now rarely be seen. In the event they do arise, increase or decrease the general provision are not allowable or taxable, and an adjustment will need to be made. So do we understand the this provision regarding bad debt? What is the provision regarding this bad debt, my friend? So we have a doubt from RN. Sir, I have a doubt. If parking fine is allowed, then this might encourage employer to force employee to increase fine. Isn't that a loophole? So if we talk about parking fine, what do you think? How much can be the how much amount of parking fine they can claim, even if they increase this? And obviously, HMRC usually allow employee parking fine incurred in parking their employee car while on the employer business. It's always in the subject of in the hand of HMRC. If the employee fine is of too much amount, or it's of dubious nature, HMRC may get the employer case in scrutiny, so they cannot easily define why there is so much amount of the parking fine is there, why every employee is doing this parking fine, or whether it is done on the time of performing your performance of your duties. So there is various um, provisions to deal with. So it's not easy to take the benefit of income tax provisions. Got it, Aryan? So can any one of you explain me this provision, general provision and bad debt? What this provision is talking about? I want to make the summary of this provision. Provision and bad debts. Tell me. Understand this point. Only impairment losses where liability was incurred, only provision related to trade purpose are deductible. Correct, Arun? General provisions. Note down this point for this provision and bad debt. If it is a trade debt and if it is a non-trade debt, there's a difference between trade debt and non-trade debt. What I mean by trade debt? A trade debt means a normal dealing with a customer. You have given credit to the customer, and they does not pay you back. You write it off. It is allowed in income tax. However, if it is a non-trade debt, means you have given loan to someone who is not your customer. For example, your employee, your supplier. Means a debt. It is a not a normal trading activity. And if then you face a loss, it is disallowed. So they are not considering any writing off. Say you have given loan to someone. See, giving loan does not impact P&L, but writing off of loan, if it become irrecoverable, then it is disallowed. And for all other normal accounting provisions will apply. Income tax and accounting provision for trade debts are same. Unpaid remuneration, if earning for employee are charged in the accounts but are not paid within the 9 months of the end of period account, the cost is only deductible for the period account in which earnings are paid. So again, if earnings for employee are charged in the accounts, okay, but are not paid within 9 months of the end of the period of account, the cost is only deductible for the period of account in which earnings are paid. So if you have not paid, it will not be deductible. It will be paid when you only the amount you have paid will be deductible. So it will be deductible on cash basis, not on accrual basis. Then we have entertainment and gift. The general visit expenditure on entertainment is not deductible. However, following are allowed. Now, for whom you are doing this entertainment and gift expenses, if you are doing for your staff, if you are doing for your employees, then it is allowed. Normally, entertainment and gifts expenses are not allowed. But if you are doing for some Christmas party, some party for your employees, then it is allowed. Now, one more thing, give to third parties which meet all of the following criteria. Now, sometimes you give to third parties, for example, customer, etc. But these three conditions should apply. For example, I have given a pen. So pen should have company logo. The cost should be less than 50 pounds, and they should not be food, drink, and tobacco or vouchers. These type of items should not be there. They should the item cannot be a food, drink, tobacco, or vouchers. Simple rule regarding entertainment and gift. So you can give gifts to employee. You can give entertainment to employee. You can entertain your employee no matter your expense is allowed. You can gift your employee no matter expenses are allowed. However, if you give to third party, please note then, this is not about employees, this gifts to third party. I'm talking about customer here. Then you have to check out this condition of these three conditions should be fulfilled to be allowed as an expenditure, else it will be disallowed. Appropriation of profit. If we talk about appropriation of profit, my friend, the private expenditure of the owner, including the private proportion of mixed expense such as rent, motor expense, telephone, and appropriation of trading profit are all disallowed. A salary paid to a member of trader family is allowed as long as it's not excessive in respect of work performed by the family member. Understand this this point, very important point. It says owner and family. It's distinguished between two things, distinguishing between two things. Owner and owner family. If owner is taking out something, either in the name of salary, either in the name of profit, dividend, etc., whatever the name owner is taking is not allowed. Is not allowed in an expense because it is in reality is not an expense. Or if they're doing any personal expense, they all are not allowed. They are not allowed. Now, but what about its family? Let's say owner's wife is working or someone working. So their salary is allowed. Yes, their salary is allowed, but two conditions should be fulfilled. It should be as per the work done, and it for the work done. If they have done some work, only then they should get, plus on commercial term. So for the work done plus commercial term. So now you understand this provision also. A salary paid to member of the trader family is allowed as long as it's not excessive in respect of work performed by that family member. So it should be not excessive and for the work performed, means at commercial rate plus work performed. They are talking about subscription and donation, legal and professional fees, subscription and donation, legal and professional fees. Give it a read, everyone. Give it a read to subscription and donation, legal and professional fees fast. If we talk about this provision of subscription and donation, let's understand this provision. Sir, what is subscription? Understand each and every provision very carefully, everyone. Subscription and donation. Let me elaborate on these points. Subscription and donation. So, do you know about subscription? Sir, we don't know. Have you ever paid subscription? Have you ever paid ACC annual subscription? Magazine subscription? So this is what we call subscription. Are subscription allowed? Are subscription allowed? So if a subscription is in relation to trade or subscription of any professional association like ACCA. So if subscription is of any professional association or is in relation to trade, only and exclusively in relation to trade, only then it is allowed. So if in relation to trade, then allowed. Simple. Now what about donation? Now for donation, I need to bifurcate. There can be various type of donation, but specifically for donation also you have to look for this rule, whether it is for business or not. But two types of donation. One is charitable and political. Law specifically mentioning that if donation is for charitable and if a donation is political, these both donations are disallowed. Political donations are disallowed, not considered for trade purpose, and charitable donations are also disallowed. But here is a catch, one thing. Now, when we talk about charitable donation, some of you must be thinking about the provision we have done under the gift aid system. Okay. Here is a catch for charitable. If your donation has done, I hope all of you remember that provision. If it's under gift aid or it's not under gift aid, not under gift aid. Note down this thing. If it is under gift aid, then it is disallowed. Obviously, then it will be disallowed. Sir, why it will be disallowed if because relief is given in a different manner by extending the tax rate back. Don't you remember I've taught you that if a charitable donation done under the gift aid scheme, the benefit is given in a very different manner. The tax relief is given using bands. So no, why are you giving double deductions? So there is no benefit here if it is under gift aid. But if it is not under gift aid, then there is some rule. First is it should to be allowed, it should be small. First thing is it should be small, my friend, small. For trade, the purpose given should be a trading purpose. For example, for promoting our business, marketing, etc. This donation is given for some business activity, trading purpose, small trading purpose, and lastly, to a local charity. If it is given to an international or national charities, then it is not considered it is given for a business purpose, then disallowed. So these three conditions is fulfilled. If these three conditions are fulfilled, the donation is of small amount and made for the promotion of business for trading purpose, and it is given to a local charity. Remember, not international or national charity. Then only it can be allowed. Only that case. And in all other cases, either charitable under gift aid is disallowed. Charitable to international national authorities are disallowed. Charitable to local can be allowed if it is for trade purpose and small. And political donations are disallowed. I hope this point is clear. Legal and professional fees. If you talk about legal and professional, sir, what are legal and professional fees? So there can be some legal charges. There can be some professional charges. For example, you are writing a letter to your debtor for recovery. So you have taken the services of a lawyer, drafting expenses, all these to get the collection. You have to get the or you are drafting some employee contract. You're making a contract for employer. All these come under legal and professional fees. Now, it's a simple rule that if it is connected to the trade, it is allowed. Legal and professional fees, if it is paid because of trade, it is allowed. Let's see. Legal and professional charges relating to capital or non-trading item are not deductible. For example, if I paid registration fee for acquiring a plant and machinery, obviously there's some legal and professional fees we need to acquire some building, plant and machinery, but they will be added in the cost of asset, not be given as a reduction here. These include charges incurred in acquiring new capital asset, issuing share, drawing a partnership agreement, litigation disputes over the term of partnership agreement, all these things, but there are certain exceptions. Professional charges are deductible if they relate directly to trading. Deductible items include legal and professional charges incurred defending the taxpayer title to non-current asset, charges connected with an action of breach of contract, expense of renewal of a short lease for less than 50 years. Understand this point. This is important. What is this point? This point is saying that if you have any lease going on of short year, do you understand the meaning of lease? Lease, what is a short lease? In income tax, 50-year lease is considered short. So quite a big, but 50-year lease is considered short. So if you have taken something on lease, let's say for 49, 45, but less than 50 years, and at the time of getting lease, you've done some expenses, it is not allowed. But at the renewal, for example, the lease of 30 years. Now after 30 years, you need to renew the lease. Now for renewal, you've done some expenses, legal expenses. So at the time of renewal, expenses are allowed. So renewal are allowed, original are not allowed. Charges for trade debt collection. So it's again a trading activity. So understand all this which are required to do the trading, which are essential for the trading, legal expenses to disputed title on my non-current asset, breach of contract, debt collection, expense for renewal, normal charges for preparing account, assisting with self-assessment of income tax return filing. You may pay to ACCAs for your income tax return filing, UK income tax. So accountancy fee, tax appealing is inquiring allowed, no adjustment rise that relate to negligence of fraud or taxpayer. Okay, correct. One more thing, we can mention here one more point. If there is any interest, or sorry, if there is any cost we have incurred in obtaining a loan finance, for example, for business we are obtaining a loan, and we incurred some processing cost. Is it allowed? Yes, that expense is also specifically allowed by MRC. Don't think too much about them. They are the interest of employer, the interest of a business. They are allowed. Now we are talking about lease car. So again, see, income tax is very generous regarding car. If your CO2 emission is good, means if you have a car with low CO2 emission, we will give you more benefit in compared to the car which are generating more CO2. Why is this? Basically, here tax is linked with the ecosystem. They are basically trying to give incentive to the person who are thinking about the ecosystem, because a car which is emitting a high amount of CO2 is already making work difficult for the government, because they want to protect this mother earth. So ultimately, if you are doing the work, if you are helping the government will also give you a relief. So what is the relief here? The relief, my friend, is there's a restriction on leasing cost of a car with CO2 emission. There's a restriction on the leasing of car with CO2 emission exceeding 1010 gram. 15% of leasing cost will be disallowed in the adjustment of profit calculation. Understand this point? So if your CO2 emission is less than 110 gram and you have taken car on rental, then 100% is allowed. 100% expense rental. Instead of buying the cars, let's say you have taken the car on rent, then 100% is allowed. But if your car CO2 emission is more than 110 gram, then 85% is allowed, 15% is disallowed. Punishment from government side for buying a car, for renting a car, for using the car with very high, or for the environment, not thinking about the environment. And if you think, you will get benefit. Interest payable. Interest paid by individual on borrowing for trade paper deductible trading expense on accrual basis, so no adjustment to the account figure needed. Individual cannot deduct interest on overdue tax interest that qualify for the relief under qualifying rules. Understand this point. Agar aapne done any interest expenses, if you have done any interest expenses for trading purpose, it is allowed. For obtaining loan, etc., for trading allowed. But if you have paid interest on overdue tax, means you have not paid tax on a due date, and therefore income tax authority charge interest from you, will that interest is allowed? No, it again in the nature of fine and penalty. Why should we allow? Second, if there is some interest which are exempt, qualifying interest, they are called as qualifying interest. Interest exempt from the income should also be removed. So that's what this interest payable provision about. Expenditure is not wholly and exclusive for the purpose of trade, obviously. They are not allowed. So tell me everyone, the answer of this and disallowed expense point. Do this activity one. Answer me. Very simple, everyone, very simple. So you can understand how simple are the provisions. Legal fee in connection with acquisition of freehold building. if you have done any legal fee in connection with acquisition of freehold building, what should we do with it? Do we add back? Yes, we add back. If we have done any legal fee in connection with this, we have to add back, my friend. Next is legal fee in connection with renewal of 15-year lease on some land. It is allowed. So it's a short-term lease and you are doing renewal. Motor insurance on a van used in her trade. The gift of 25 identical pen bearing Lulu business coin, total cost 1375. So you have to calculate this. The limit is 50 per pound. Add back, do not add back, and add back. Legal fee incurred on the acquisition capital are not allowable, where those incurred on the renewable short lease are allowed. Motor insurance, normal business expense incurred wholly. The pens are not allowed because despite bearing a business logo, the cost is in excess of 50 per recipient. $50 per recipient. Correct. It's more than 50 per recipient. Divide 1375 by 25. So I think it's clear to everyone till now. Let's discuss some more provision. See, it says trading income excluded from accounts. If any trading income is omitted from account, it must be added back in the adjustment of profit in order to be taxed. Okay. The usual example is when trader takes good for their own use. Okay. Now here you need to understand this point. Very important point. In such circumstances, selling price of the good, if sold in the open market, less any amount trader actually paid for the good, is added to the accounting. In other words, the trader is treated for the tax purpose as having to made a sale to themselves. Accounting profit not taxable. Again, this there's a specific point for this. Let me explain you this point first. It's a very important point. Goods for personal use. What should we do with it? What should we do for that? If they are goods which are taken for personal use. Now there, understand this. If you have taken goods for personal use, income tax thing, it is a sales. Means you are selling goods to yourself. So there can be two things. You have done the accounting and you have not done any accounting. Because when you take out goods for personal use, you have to reduce your purchases and debit the drawing. And if you have done the accounting, means for example, if you have reduces your cost of sale or purchases because of these drawing and debited the drawing, but all of you have done, all the accounting must be done at cost price only. But in income tax, we need to mark up for the profit element. So here you just have to add back the profit element. Add back profit element. Add back profit element. Why we need to add back profit element? Because we are assuming that goods are sold to the owner. Let me explain. Let's say the cost of good was 80. Now the good he have taken for personal use, the cost is 80. Now when he removes, he do accounting on the basis of 80. means he will show that he have taken out the good of the value of 80. But for income tax, let's say sale price is 100. For income tax, the goods are sold to the owner for 100. So income tax want to tax the 20 profit, the extra 20 profit. How can they tax this extra 20 profit? By adding the profit element in their net profit. So they will add this 20 extra 20 in the net profit. But let's say if they have done no accounting of this drawing, then you have to add back entire 100 rupees here. Why, sir? Sorry, 100 pound. You have to add back entire 100 here, entire selling price. Remember this point. This very important point tested sometimes in examination, that if they have done the accounting, and if they have not done the accounting. If they have not done the accounting, you have to add back entire 100. Why? First, 80 is added back to remove the purchases, to reduce the purchases, because 80 is the cost and the balance 80 will set off each other, and remaining 20 is added to charge the taxation. Because see, the both cases are same. In this case, companies already adjusted this the cost of 80, so we only added 20 element of profit. But when you have not done accounting, we have to adjust the cost also and the element of profit also. That's why we add back 100. I hope it's clear. Goods for personal use. Clear, everyone? You can read it yourself. It's already discussed. Income specifically exempt, income tax somewhere else. All these points we have already done and discussed. Now we have one question, a big question to discuss on. Before trying this question, let's complete the provision. Remaining some small provisions are remaining. Let's discuss it out. Deductible expenses not charged in the accounts. Now, see, there are some expenses which are not in accounting but are specifically in income tax only. First is capital allowance, means depreciation as per income tax. So to know more about depreciation as per income tax, we have to wait. We have to check out in the next chapter. We have to defer for now. If we talk about this, we have to defer for now. Correct. Then annual sum which can be deducted by trader, that is paid at premium to landlord, who is taxable on the premium property income. Now, this we have already done. Do you remember the property income lease premium provision? Yes, we remember, sir. So what is lease premium provision? Basically, the one who is paying the lease premium, the owner is taxed on the revenue amount. The owner is taxed on the revenue amount, and the revenue amount is allowed as deduction to the trader. Means the one who is doing the trading activity, that revenue amount is given allowed as a deduction to the trader. But for that, you have to divide on the basis of number of years. What I'm trying to say is, how do we calculate the revenue amount? In case of lease, we take the formula is 51 minus n divide by 50 multiply with by premium to calculate multiply premium. Whatever will the result, will divided again by the result. The result is again divided. Whatever is the result, my friend, this will be divided by n. N is what? Number of years in a lease. Number of years in a lease. Now this amount, this particular amount will be given as deduction for each year to the trader, the one who is paying. Understand? There are two aspects to it. One is owner of the owner, and another is tenant. Owner, we studied when owner received premium from tenant, how to tax that premium, don't we? We studied that in property income. Now I'm talking about from the perspective the one who is paying. Shouldn't we allow that that is an expense while for the business? Yes, it is allowed. Does entire amount at a single sum allowed as deduction? No, it is allowed over the period of lease. Over the period of lease, you have to divide the entire revenue amount paid for paid to the owner is divided by the years of lease to calculate per annum amount. Correct. Pre-trading expenditure. Pre-trading expenditure means if you have done any expenditure before you have started your employment business. Sometimes if you before starting business you have to do some expenditure. My friend, you cannot start your business. You may have to prepare for a business. You do some pre-trading expenditure before starting. So if you have done any expenditure, there is a rule of 7 years. Immediate 7 years. If you have done this rule of immediate 7 years says if you have done any expenditure prior 7 years and the expenditure is wholly and exclusively for the business, then on the day you will start the business, this expenses will be allowed to you. So if you have done any pre-trading expenditure, they will be allowed. So provision is given to us. Pre-trading expenditure treated as trading expense incurred on the first day of trading, provide following condition: the expense was incurred in 7 years prior to commencement and it would have deductible expense, trade already started. So the expense we have done is an allowed expense, plus it is done within 7 years, then it will be given as in a deduction on the first day you start your business. It will be allowed. And here we have completed our trading income assessment provisions, that how to assess trading income, the provisions for trading income assessment. The next topic, as you can see, is cash basis for small business. So basically, it's a different topic which talk about small businesses. See, small business may not prepare account. So there are relaxation for small business, that small business can opt for cash basis. So you can do on the basis of cash, you can elect for cash basis. We will look for the cash basis also. So it's a special provision for small business, very small provision. And that's its entire topic is all about. So the 3 stages, cash basis for small business is yet to discuss. We will discuss it. So tell me, friends, any doubt up till now to anyone? Ask me. Do you have any doubt up till now in any of the provision you want to discuss with me? Please let me know. If net profit figure is 17,71110, so let's discuss this question. Before discussing this question, let's take a break. After break, we will discuss this question. Okay. Okay, everyone, let's resume. Let's start. We were discussing this adjustment of profit, how to do this adjustment of profit. So you have to take other income. You have given the other income, bank interest received, wages and salary, rent and rates, depreciation, impairment losses, trade and entertainment expense for customer, patent royalties paid, 32 legal expenses, acquisition of a new factory. So if we discuss this question, salary include 50,000 paid to Stephen Wife, Million, who works full-time in the business. Okay. Now, quite a easy question, we can solve it we have to take the accounting profit. Accounting profit is 17,710. See what you have to do with wages and salary of mean wife. So Mimi's wages and salary. Since she is the wife of owner, she is working full time, and assuming it is paid at commercial rate, we will do nothing. It is allowed expense. Rent and rate, allowed expense. Depreciation calculated as per accounting standards is disallowed. Therefore, we have to add back. Impairment losses, since it is a trade impairment loss, it is allowed. Customer entertainment expense, is it disallowed? Customer only employee entertainment is allowed. Customer entertainment is disallowed. Patents royalty. So patent royalty is an business. It will be allowed. Legal expenses, it is of capital nature, disallowed. Bank interest paid. So bank interest paid is in business expense, trade expense, interest, unless bank interest received. Why bank interest received is minus deducted? Because bank interest received is not taxable in the in this head. Bank interest received is taxable in other head. Let's see this adjustment of profit too. John summarized statement P&L. This number is as follows. Clear to everyone? It's very simple. Any doubt in any point? Let's discuss this second adjustment. GP 13,000, depreciation, add back, entertainment, additional information, wages and salary check, additional information, car expenses, additional information, rent rate, bank interest received, profit on sale of asset. Entertainment comprised 2,500 for customer and 500. So staff 1 allowed, customer disallowed. Wages salary comprised 10,000 for John, 5,015. Penny worked part-time in John business, and some salary would have been payable to an unconnected employee. Penny worked part-time in John business, and some salary would have payable to an the same salary would have been payable to an unconnected employee. Okay. John used car 20% privately. Now, since you are using 20% car privately, the 20% expense of car should be disallowed. It is a private expense. Let's check it out. The treatment to my friend. So net profit is 7,900. Depreciation added back. Customer entertainment added back. John's salary. Car private expense of 20% is added back. Sir, why they have added John's salary? So I told you owner's salary are not deductible. We will ignore wife's salary because it is on commercial term and for the work performed. Rent and rate tax is allowed. Bank interest paid allowed. Bank interest received should be deducted. Profit on sale is also deducted because these both items are not chargeable under the head trading income. They are chargeable under the head different head. So bank interest received will be taxed under John's saving income, and profit on disposal is a capital, not a trading receipt. So everyone, it's clear this topic. Any doubts, anyone? So practice some more questions from the kit. Let's look out the last topic. Let's also complete the last topic we left out with, cash basis for small business. It says if it is a small business, they can opt for cash basis. So what qualifies for a small business and how can they utilize this cash basis instead of accrual basis? Check out. Election can be made for unincorporated business to calculate trading profit on the cash basis instead of accordance with generally accepted accounting principle in certain circumstances. Understand one thing. Normally, accounting profit is calculated on accrual basis because as per IFRS and IS. But there is a rule. There can be some businesses which can use cash basis. In any examination question involving unincorporated business, it should be assumed that the cash basis is not relevant unless specifically mentioned. So till question mention, only then you can use this cash basis, unless use normal basis. Which business can use the cash basis? So it's a 12-month criteria with a receipts of 1,50,000 pound, which says if an unincorporated business revenue which does not exceed 1,50,000. If an unincorporated business has revenue which does not exceed pound 1,50,000, it is option to compute trading profit using cash basis. The cash basis will then apply to the current and all subsequent eligible tax years. The business would continue to use the cash basis until and either if receipt from previous tax year exceeds pound 3 lakh and receipt in current year exceed 1,50,000, or if its commercial circumstances change such that cash basis is no longer appropriate and the election is made using accrual accounting. So there are two conditions. Their previous year tax year exceed should not be more than 3 lakh and current year should not be more like 50,000 to continue use this tax exemption of cash basis. Calculation of taxable profit under cash, calculate cash receipt less cash expenses. So obviously it's very simple. Whatever your cash income, whatever your cash paid, here you cannot take normal accounting profit now. It's on accrual basis. So what do you have to do? Or take all cash receipt minus all cash payment. This this include both cash and card receipt, including amount received from sale of plant and machinery. Deductible business expense for both cash basis accounting include capital, plant and machinery. Other capital expense are not business expense, example purchase of land and building. The majority of specific tax rules covered earlier in this chapter concern the deductibility of business expense. For example, personal also apply when cash basis use. Fixed rate expense for private use, motor car and business private purpose may be used instead. So for motor car, we have a fixed rate. When using cash basis, certain expense can be computed on a flat rate basis as follows. Use the statutory approved mileage allowed to compute in deduction of business mile. If a business premises are used partly for private purpose and the private adjustment can be made on the number of occupant. So understand this thing is, in case of cash receipt, here is a little difference as even a sale of plant and machinery, which was previously in accrual basis, was not considered. If you're going for cash receipt, sale of plant machinery is also included. And similarly, the capital expenditure incurred on plant and machinery is also given to you. But other capital expenses and for other rules are same. And we have a fixed rate expense for motor cars and business premises, which are used for both private and business purpose. If it is a motor car, you can use approved mileage allowance. So approved mileage allowance will be given. Approved mileage allowance is same 45 pence. It's which we have discussed in property income. We have to yet to discuss this approved mileage allowance. We will discuss in detail in employment income. Secondly, if it we are doing any private purpose use, then according to the question and the information given, we have to remove the private part. So this basis period rule, we need to defer it for now. We will do the discussion of this basis period later on. Don't worry. We will discuss in detail. Basis, for example, in this topic, there is one important discussion which we yet to discuss. Is two important discussion from this topic. You should be aware of. First is rules for capital allowance. Agreed. We need to discuss the rule for capital allowance. Until and unless we discuss the rule of capital allowance, we will not understand how to calculate depreciation. So the next topic which we're going to start with is talk about that rules. Okay. And secondly, the second thing which very material in this topic is basis of period. Basis of period. What I mean by basis of period, I mean is tax year and accounting year may not be same. Tax year and accounting year may not be same. If in such cases, how will you determine that which accounting year profit will be taxable in which tax year? Means tax year is from 6 April to 5 April. Generally, tax year is 6 April. For example, this current year, our tax year is 6 April 2022, 5 April 2021. Let's say our accounting year ends on 31st December. Accounting year ends on 31st December. So the accounting year which will it will end in 31st December 2020, but our tax year went to 6 April 2021. So how much to tax in this 2021 tax year? So all these questions we will deal later on. Similarly, they have given us basis period rule losses under only for cash basis. Not, I mean, I want it will be more clear when we study for accrual basis. Let's read it for now. Basis period rule: a trader using cash basis can like produce a trading loss. The only relief available to carry forward the loss forward against future trading profit. The rule regarding the loss relief to accrual basis trader are covered in chapter 10. So both of these are covered later on, deferred. So let me know. Any doubt, anyone till now? Do we have any doubt? Tell me fast. Can we start our discussion for capital allowances? So in short, we discussed today how to calculate trading income. In calculation of trading income, there are specifically, if I talk about only 2-3 provisions which you should be more concerned about. For example, you should be more aware about legal fees, professional fees. We can talk about subscriptions and donation. You can think of lease premium. A lease premium is of good adjustment or good for personal use, can be considered as a good adjustment. So only 4-5 adjustments are which you need to be revised on. All other are very simple. So everyone, can we start our discussion for capital allowances? Please complete your homework by next class. I will take your doubts for income tax computation if you have any, property income and capital, trading profit. So I'm starting this topic, capital allowances. Let's I'm going to give you a brief overview of the topic, discussion about capital allowances. See, in this topic, capital allowances, what does capital allowance basically mean? Capital allowance basically means depreciation. Now, how income tax will give you depreciation is quite different from depreciation allowed by the normal IFRS and IS. Now, things you need to understand here is not all assets are eligible for capital allowances. So first you need to check it out whether the asset for which we are claiming capital allowance is a qualifying asset or not. If it is a qualifying asset, only then we can calculate capital allowances on that asset. Correct? So there are certain criteria for qualifying asset. Second question in this topic, which is material, is how to calculate capital allowances. Very important. So for calculating capital allowances, here we have three criteria to look out. First is AIA. Second is written down value, and third one is FYA. What is AIA? AIA is annual investment allowance. It's written down value, and third one is FYA. So basically, how depreciation is given in income tax, please understand in crux that first they give you AIA, for example, If I have an asset, I want to claim depreciation and income tax. First, they will give me an AIA. So what is the amount of AIA? It's 1 million. So if you have assets up to 1 million, it's given every year. If you have assets up to 1 million, you will get entire deduction, entire. So annual investment allowance. So for example, in the current year, I bought asset for 1 million. So for the 1 million, I don't have to wait for the asset life normally in accounts. Up to 1 million, entire AIA 1 million. There is exemption for entire 1 million. So depreciation in one shot and for a first 1 million. Understand like this. There is detailed provision, but it's in summary, understand like this. Annual investment allowance of 1 million in totality in the first year itself. Let's say we still have some assets which are crossing the boundary of 1 million. Now, if you cross the boundary of 1 million, you will come to this second category of WDV. Here we have pool system. The assets are divided in the pool, and there are two pools. Assets are divided in pool. There are two pools, my friend. One is main pool, and there is another is special pool. What is the difference in main pool and special pool? If your asset falls under main pool, depreciation rate will be 18%. And if your asset fall in special pool, your depreciation rate will be on that asset, you will get depreciation of 6%. Correct? So that's how you should understand this topic of capital allowances. If you have asset, first you will get the 1 million. But if you have asset more than 1 million, you can go to the WDV pool. Now WDV pool have main pool and special pool. Main pool, obviously main pool is given higher rate depreciation, so it's better in comparison to special pool. So understand this thing also. A person wants assets to fall in main pool or special pool. Obviously on main pool. Why? Because in main pool the depreciation is 18%, whereas in special pool depreciation is less 6%. So we want to claim depreciation early or late. Obviously we want to claim depreciation as early as possible. Why? There are two benefits. First is higher tax benefit, and second is time value of money. The earlier you save the money, it's better for you because money has a time value. So this 18% benefit if you fall to main pool and 6%, and last in FYA. FYA is known as first year allowance. First year allowance, it's given for the new cars, new motor cars with some CO2 emission. That if it fits a certain criteria of car, if it is a certain criteria of car, if it is an FYA car, first year allowance car, then you don't need that car to check out for AIA or WDV. That car will be given 100% allowance in the first year itself. So very interesting. FYA is only for specific assets with CO2 emissions, and 100% allowance is given, means it's similar to AIA, but you will not check AIA for those assets for which FYA is available. Why you need to waste your AIA for FYA asset? Tell me, did you all understood this summarized version of capital allowance? Everyone, is it clear to everyone? What are the things we are going to study in this topic? So what are the two major things in this topic? Tell me. Qualifying asset. So in next class, we will deal with the definition of qualifying asset. What is qualifying asset? And second question is how to claim depreciation. So forget about all the methods we have studied till now in accounting, SLM, WDV. Here is a very different manner. The three things you should remember now from on AIA, WDV, FYA. An asset which qualifies for AIA will get one shot exemption up to 1 million. But if some assets which are not covered by AIA, or maybe the AIA limit is exhausted, they have normal WDV pool. Now WDV pool does not work in the same manner it works in accounts. Here we have fixed two rates, 18%, 6%, and the decision whether and where and which pool it will be decided by income tax. And then we have FY, first year allowance. Clear everyone? Tell me fast. Yes, no, I want to respond to everyone fast. So they have given us a definition of qualifying expenditure. Basically, plant and machineries are qualified for expenditure. The lands are buildings are not qualify for capital allowances. Obviously, logically, they do not depreciate in real sense. That's why taxation department is not qualifying them. But they raise another structure and then building allowances are there. There are different amendments in recent tax laws. Okay, so let's not start our topic. We are short of time to start a new topic now. Let's wind up our session for now. Please practice, everyone. Do not accumulate your text homework. It will become very difficult to understand or to to create the linkage in the taxation if you do not revise your provision. So let's meet on next Saturday. Bye bye, everyone. Tata for now. Take care. Sir, you say practice from kit. Yeah. Pooja, you can now practice from kit. Yes, it's fine. Whatever the kit you are using, it's fine. BPP, you can use BPP. It's whatever the kit you have, you can practice from it. Either use Kaplan, BPP, both are okay. BPP is recommended, but you can, if you have Kaplan, you can install Kaplan kit also. Solve each and every question from the kit, either from income. Now you should well versed with every question, should practice every question, whether from study text or kit of these 4 topics: income tax computation, basic of income tax, which is not a big topic, property income, and trading income. Okay, take care, everyone.